Welcome to the Non-Anxious Leader Family Systems Basics. This is part two of a three-part presentation on understanding family process. And we always begin with Kierkegaard's quote, "Now, Lord, with your help, I shall become myself." And hopefully by this point in understanding family systems, we start to realize that the work we need to do is on ourselves. In relation to our own family of origin. And as we ask God to help us to do that work, we become better self-differentiated, and the inputs that we put into the family system actually can help to initiate positive change. And of course, when we're talking about our church family, that can help us become a better leader because we are actually more self-defined. We can take responsibility for our own goals and at the same time stay in touch emotionally with those in the system, especially those who resist, and do so in a non-anxious way. Today we're going to be reminded, as we are in each session on family process, that it is process and not content. You can fill in the blank with the content. It can be any number of things. So what we want to look at is what is the process that's going on, and how can our input into the system help to address that. Today we're going to cover three topics: pain and responsibility, the paradox of seriousness and the playfulness of paradox, and then also secrets and systems. One of the key understandings in terms of pain and responsibility is that the ability to increase our own threshold for another's pain will actually help to increase their range of functioning as well. So, as I think I've mentioned before, we typically don't have a very high threshold for other people's pain, especially those that are close to us. And so we kind of rush in and we want to spare them from that pain. But in fact, pain is a way that we grow. When we learn to deal with pain and respond to pain, we actually grow. And when we spare somebody else from pain, we actually reduce their ability to function. So when we also think about that in the church, and we're nice people, as I've heard people say in the church, we're nice people and we don't want other people to experience pain, and so we try to spare them from that pain, and that actually reduces their ability to respond to pain and perhaps even grow. What's interesting about this is we can't make another person responsible. In fact, the very act of trying to make them responsible preempts their own responsibility. So the idea of trying to spare people from challenge, that's what Friedman would call it, requires the ability to non-anxiously tolerate another's pain, sometimes even stimulate the pain, thus forcing the other to increase her or his own threshold and helping them to become more responsible for their own feelings and their own situation. Oftentimes we are trying to help people become more responsible, and what we do is we take away their responsibility, we spare them of their pain, and that results in greater dependency. An example that Friedman gives in Generation to Generation on page 49 is an example he calls a stimulus for motivation, and I'm going to read that. A woman found her husband coming home from work ever more tipsy. Her anxiety increased. She tried everything she could to keep him sober, from constant warnings in the morning to harangues in the evening. As in all such emotional triangles, that would be the triangle, this is my comment here, the triangle between the woman, the man, and his drinking. As in all such triangles, her own stress increased, and her husband seemed to feel more freedom to drink. Worried that she might be left a widow with 2 children, she was encouraged to get out of the triangle between her husband and his symptom, to shift the pain by telling him, when he was not drunk, in as calm a manner as possible, "Honey, I've been thinking things over. I have decided that you have a right to drink all you want, enjoy life to the hilt, and to risk it. After all, it's your life. I would like to stop nagging you, but I've got a problem. It's fairly clear to me that you probably won't make it for too much longer, and I don't want to be stuck with the mortgage and the car payment. So I'll make an agreement with you. If you will agree to triple your life insurance, I will agree never to mention your drinking again." Sticking someone with the pain of responsibility for his or her own destiny is far more sobering than giving the person black coffee afterwards. So unpacking this story a bit, we've mentioned the triangle, the man, the woman, and his drinking, or the triangle, and presumably he is drinking because he is not comfortable in some way with their relationship, and by her focusing on the drinking, by haranguing and nagging and pleading and begging, that actually works on the side of homeostasis. It causes him to push back even more. And in fact, you might imagine it says that he feels even greater right to drink. Gosh, I deserve to drink because she's nagging me all the time. So how does she get out of that triangle? She has to be self-differentiated, and she has to give him back responsibility. Let him deal with the pain. And so she says, "I've been thinking things over." So you notice all the I statements. She's taking an emotional stand here. I believe you have the right to drink. Do all you want. I just have a problem here. I don't want to be left a widow. And so by doing that, she's making a self-differentiated statement. She's not nagging him. She's giving him the freedom to drink, but she also wants to give him the responsibility that if she's left behind, he'll make sure she's taken care of. So when we talk about pain and responsibility and how we get out of triangles, oftentimes getting out of the triangle involves giving somebody back responsibility for their own issue. Give them back their issue. This leads to the next topic, which is the paradox of seriousness and the playfulness of paradox. Paradoxically, the seriousness with which families approach their problems can be more the cause of their difficulties than the effects and of the problem itself. And if you think about it, Friedman often says no one gets the problem they can handle. Every family system is different in terms of what they consider a problem. When Junior comes home with a C, in some families that could be the end of the world, and other families they wouldn't even give a thought. And you can apply that again. You can fill in the blank. This is process, not content. You can fill in the blank, and with just about any content, one family will consider it a problem, and others won't. And seriousness presents a paradox. We have to care, but we can't care too much, because if we care too much, it leads to anxiety, and it provides the impetus for being more of a problem than the problem itself. So seriousness is more than an attitude. It's a total orientation. It's a way of thinking that's embedded in chronic and constant anxiety. And it's characterized by a lack of flexibility, a narrow repertoire of approaches, and persistent efforts to try harder, and an inability to change direction. So when we're so serious about a problem, we're just trying harder and just trying to fix it and trying to fix it. We really are not, don't have any flexibility to try a different approach, to change direction. We lose our perspective, and it becomes more the problem than the problem itself. When we try to change any chronic condition with our serious efforts, it will be supported not to change. So anytime we try to fix a problem with our serious efforts, that is on the side of homeostasis. everything in the system will push back to push back against the change. So the way to get out of a problem is to be paradoxical. Okay, so the way out of this paradox that seriousness is a problem is to be paradoxical. And Friedman gives an example on page 51 and generation to generation. He calls it reversing direction. A good husband and a dedicated father found that his wife had chronically been having affairs. He took her once to a marriage counselor, but she refused to go again. He continued for 2 years, desperately trying to make her see the light. He showed anger, he threatened, he tried making her jealous. Notice all of these serious efforts. At his wit's end, ready to throw in the towel, he heard a discussion at church about how families never teach their members to push one another away. We are trained to hang on to others or to withdraw, to pull away. Pushing people we care about at others or into activities we don't care about is almost inconceivable. When a relationship is caught in a skid, we almost never think to turn the wheel the other way. The next day, when the husband came home, he found his wife on the phone. Predictably, she hung up quickly. Resisting the urge to berate her, he said, "Listen, honey, I know you want some privacy. I'll go for a walk around the block." Predictably, the wife's behavior escalated. At the end of the week, she informed him she was going to Miami to visit an old boyfriend. He went to a travel agency and got her brochures on places to have fun in southern Florida, adding some suggestions based on his own experience. She took them without comment and flew off, returned within 3 days and announced that she had had a terrible time. The following week, she joined him in counseling and continued long after he dropped out. Now, the point of this is not that it's being manipulative or gimmicky, as Friedman would say. It's not some kind of ninja mind trick or some kind of reverse psychology. The idea is to get out of the triangle. Don't allow others' pain to be placed upon you, and to break the feedback cycle. So let's think about the triangle here. The triangle here is the woman, the man, and her infidelity. And the man, as I mentioned, has had all kinds of serious efforts, anger and threatening and trying to make her jealous. And he said, or he noted, that we're trained to either hang on to others, that would be to overfunction in one's space anxiously, or to withdraw, to pull away. And remember what we said about emotional space. You can't be too close, where your anxiety spills out all over the place, and you can't be disconnected. You can't pull away. And so the way to get out of the triangle is to give someone back their own issue. And the way to do that is paradoxically to give them the freedom to pursue it. It's not saying that we don't care, but it's saying that this is your issue and I will no longer be responsible for it. And the way that the man does it in this case is he makes a non-anxious statement that's very paradoxical. I know you want some privacy. Oh, you want to go to Florida? Well, here, let me give you some things to show you to have a good time. And the underlying principle here is we cannot change another person. And the more we try to change them, the more they will resist. And so paradox and playfulness helps us to get out of the triangle. It gives somebody back their own issue. It doesn't give them the fight they're looking for, the resistance they're looking for. And oftentimes when people are doing this, it's a cry for help and attention. And by not giving them that attention, either through haranguing or nagging or threatening, we are giving them back their own issue and forcing them to either deal with it or not. But either way, we know that we can't be the one to make that change in their life. Only they can do it themselves. And by pulling out of the triangle, we provide the greatest possible opportunity for that to happen. And we pull out of the triangle, but we stay connected emotionally. Notice that he says, listen, I know you want some privacy. I'll go for a walk around the block. He's saying, I still care about you. But he's also giving her emotional space. And that requires then that she deal with her own issues. The final topic in this presentation is secrets and systems. And, a lot of times secrets are very commonplace in a family. They tend to be more commonplace in families that are organized in series, as we talked about in the idea of family, because it's only a natural result of that. Because if you're in a series system where anxiety just flows through and ripples through and upsets everybody, well, you try to keep secrets so that doesn't happen. But Friedman says it acts as the plaque in the arteries of communication. It causes a stoppage in the general flow of real communication, real connection, real emotional connection in a family system. And secrets divide a family. Now, again, remember we're talking about process, not content. So you can fill in the blank. I'll give you some examples, though. It might be, we just had an example about an affair, infidelity. It might be an illegitimate child. It might be an elopement. It might be terminal illness, an abortion, an adoption, some kind of institutionalization, either mental or criminal, a previous marriage, a skeleton in the closet, family finances. The list goes on. And again, the content is irrelevant. The process is that somebody will say, don't tell, fill in the blank, and you don't tell so-and-so that so-and-so. It's the process of family secrets that's significant, not the content. Secrets function to divide a family because there are those who are on the inside who are able to communicate with one another because they know the secret. And then there's those who are on the outside. And it doesn't just divide people along this issue. It creates that same division on all issues because you have insiders and outsiders. There's a group that knows and the group that doesn't. It creates unnecessary estrangements between those who know and those who don't know, and false companionship among those who know. So, for example, if let's say that a young lady has an abortion and her father is the one that helps make it happen, but they don't tell the mother. Well, the mother and daughter are likely to not be able to communicate on many things, while the father and the daughter will have a false togetherness. It won't be true companionship. It will be a false togetherness built around this companionship. Secrets distort perceptions because those who are on the outside are not really truly. They're getting confused or misled by what they're seeing and hearing because they don't know the entire truth, and they exacerbate problems because they tend to keep anxiety at a higher level. Whether when you're on the inside and you're trying to keep a secret, it almost always increases your anxiety. It certainly does for me. And I think that's a natural human condition. So it keeps anxiety at a higher level and tends to then create problems on all issues within the family system. Now, when secrets are revealed, there's upset at first, but the anxiety level of the family will actually decrease once the secret is revealed. As Friedman says, few of us are irreparably hurt by upset. Chronic anxiety, on the other hand, kills. And see, we say that we want to keep secrets to spare someone's feelings, but it's more likely to spare our own. We just don't want to deal with the issue. And so when we're committed to being a non-anxious presence and not keeping secrets, we realize that sometimes people are going to be upset, but in the long run, it's better for the system, because what secrets do is they create chronic anxiety. It's one of these chronic symptoms that continues to rear its ugly head in the family system or the church family. Secrets are always on the side of homeostasis. They always resist change. They result in labeling and chronic symptoms. And secrets are never for challenge or change. They're always trying to prevent change. So that is the presentation for today, part 2 of understanding family process. Remember, process, not content. You can fill in the blank with the content, and what we want to do is understand the process of what's going on. In part 3, we'll be covering sibling position and diagnosis and the concept of symmetry.